What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. What's up, everybody? I'm DJ, aka Token Black Guy, which is my channel. If you're new here for the first time, hit the like button, subscribe button. Truly appreciate it. Yeah, so we're going to continue my Let's Learn Something series, and today we're watching infographics again. This one is weirdest taboos around the world. So I plan on doing some more traveling once all the, the pandemic, the word we shall not speak of, it's done and over, and hopefully soon I want to get some traveling done. So this would be some interesting things to learn before I hit the road and go traveling around the world and everything. But yeah, let's check it out. I got me a little drink. We'll sit back and let's learn the weirdest taboos around the world. Here we go.
An American man decides it's time to see the world. Within a week, he's in a foreign country, and he's already been invited by a local in that country to share a home-cooked meal with his family. 3 hours into that meal, he's as happy as a man can be.
3 hours into a meal?
Meanwhile, he's unknowingly been raining insults down on his hosts. Can that happen? As you'll see today, yes,
3 hour meal?
A lot of people breach a taboo in foreign countries just as soon as they enter a person's house. Why? Because they don't take their shoes off. In some countries, such as the UK, it's fine and dandy to just waltz into someone's house with your shoes on. At least if
a lot
your
of
shoes are clean.
Asian countries.
Some people might ask if they should take them off, but you won't upset your hosts if you don't. As a general
Arab
rule of
too,
thumb,
that's
when
the
you're
thing
in
too.
Asia, never mind which country, it will be seen as rude if you enter an abode with your shoes on. Your hosts will likely not know it's not a custom in your country, so you will come across as ill-mannered.
So I grew up with my couple of my friends. They were half or quarter Japanese, but obviously their mom was half Japanese, and their grandma, who was Japanese, lived with them. And I would go over there, and the first thing you have to do is take your shoes off when you're in their house. So I completely understand that.
This show isn't just entertainment, it's a lesson for you that can make global travel that much easier. In most of Europe, you can probably keep your shoes on, although the person who owns the house might have a policy about that. It goes without saying that if your shoes are caked in mud, you should take them off. In Eastern Europe, it's different. Most countries have a shoes-off policy. We're not going to mention each and every nation, but just bear in mind that outside of much of Europe and North America, taking your shoes off is not a choice. You'll be expected to take them off. As we learned when traveling in Asia, it pays not to have holes in your socks in those countries. Now for something you really wouldn't have known. In Russia, you should take off your shoes when entering a house, but one other thing we learned about this country is you should also take off your gloves before you shake someone's hand. Apparently, it's a sign of disrespect if you don't take them off. It
Did
makes
not know
sense
that.
if you think about it. Gloves get dirt on them, while bare hands are kept pristine under the gloves. Also in Russia, once you've taken off your shoes and gloves, you still shouldn't shake hands if you are standing in the threshold of a doorway. You're not supposed to shake or embrace until you're inside the house.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
The travel company we found said Russians, likely just some Russians, see this as bad luck. Let's say you want to make the best impression in Russia, so you've brought some flowers with you. Maybe you picked up a dozen roses before you went to the house. That could actually go the wrong way for you, because the word on the street is an even number of flowers are given when the occasion is a sad one, such as a funeral.
An
For
odd
a happy occasion, you should go with an odd number. It sounds a little superstitious, but people all over the world still embrace superstition. It usually depends on where you are in the country, though.
You talk about superstitions, like my mom and just my family in general. A lot of females, they don't put their purse on the floor. Consider bad luck or whatever. Don't know why. It's a thing that my mom instilled. And I remember I had a girlfriend one time. She came over to the house and she put her purse on the floor. My mom chastised her so much.
Take Thailand, for instance. People who live in swanky neighborhoods in Bangkok might have different beliefs from people who, say, live in a small village in the mountains in northern Thailand. In that country, when you meet new people, you generally stay hands-off. People eye each other, like giving the prayer sign, but you generally don't maul a new person, and you certainly don't kiss strangers on the cheek. This could happen in some parts of Bangkok, though. But in most of Thailand, you just don't touch people very much when you first meet them. Men certainly don't get touchy with women in a formal greeting situation. If you did this, you'd look a bit like an animal.
Good enough, 'cause Thailand's on my list of places I want to go.
You should show some respect. You will often see younger folks walking past older people with a slightly bent posture. That's because they don't want to loom over them. Remember, in this country, the head is a very important part of the body. You certainly shouldn't grab someone's head if you don't know them very well. This could go down very, very badly. The feet are the lowest part of the body, so you should never point them at people's heads. Rude tourists have been called out in Thailand for putting
Why
their
would you
feet
point
up
your
on the
feet at
backs of
somebody?
others' chairs, sometimes
Oh.
on seats in minibuses.
It's
This
rude
might
in
not seem
general.
like a big deal to you, but it'll make you
Right.
look like a real pig. Tourists still do it all the time. They also make out in public, which again is a big taboo in Thailand. Thais save that stuff for the privacy of their own homes.
Okay.
No one will deny you a peck on the cheek at the
They
airport
put a
when you
dog
say
in there
goodbye to
having
your lover,
sex.
but tongues down throats in the street will remind Thais of soy dogs stuck together during mating. In some parts of the Middle East, you can actually get in trouble for kissing in public.
Yeah.
This is what a lawyer in Dubai wrote. Public displays of affection as well as sexual
You hear a lot
harassment
about people
or
in
rampant
Dubai going over there and getting
in public
arrested or
places
charged
is
with the
liable to
crazy
be punished
stuff.
by imprisonment or deportation. We're not kidding. In 2009, a British couple served 3 years in prison after being caught kissing in public.
3
After
years
that,
for
they were both
kissing?
deported. Instead of hearing the words "get a room," you might instead hear "go to jail."
That's
in many countries
crazy.
in Africa, showing affection in public is also a big no-no, but each country is different. On a radio show in South Africa called Cape Talk, they had a call in about public displays of affection, aka PDAs. Most
Yeah.
people were okay with it, even though many callers said it just makes them feel lonely because they're single. As we said, how it's accepted or not accepted in Africa changes between each country. In most places where it's not acceptable, you'll just get some funny looks and not a jail sentence, but
Yeah.
you don't want people thinking you're animalistic. We tend to think Northern Europeans and North Americans have fewer taboos. It's true that when visiting, say, Canada or Scotland or the Netherlands, you're likely to have less of a chance of upsetting someone by accident because you breached a local taboo. Still, in those countries, you shouldn't eat right off your knife. This is fine in some nations. According to Steven
Who
Pinker
does
in
that?
his book Better Angels of Our Nature, the reason Europeans stopped eating off their knife back in the day was simply that the continent went through what he calls a civilizing process. Knives were what people killed with, not for wielding at the dinner table. Table manners
Who
are
eats
a
off
big
the
thing
knife?
all over Europe. In many countries, you'll also be expected to not rest your elbows on the table. This and not eating from your knife might seem like common sense to
The
many
elbow
of you,
thing is
but
kinda
in many
hard.
parts of the world, it's totally fine to do it. It's the same with slurping your food. Try doing that in most countries and you'll elicit some funny stares.
That's
But
annoying.
In China, you'll see and hear people doing it all the time.
Oh,
It's also
really?
okay in Japan. But be warned, people who like slurping, it is not okay in most countries. The reason why some countries are good with slurping is the noise shows appreciation for the food. In India and some other countries in Asia, you'll also see people eating with their right hand only. This is because the left hand is generally seen as a hand that gets dirty when doing the cleaning, especially cleaning yourself when you've
I
been
mean, so like, what if you're left-handed?
in that country, and again, a lot of Asian nations, you don't hog your food as if you think everyone has just one plate. It might
Yeah.
feel weird at first, but when you're dining with Asians, the food is often all shareable. Usually it just keeps on coming too, so don't think it'll run out.
I don't
We
know
read
about
a story
that.
of an English guy
I ain't
that
sharing
went
my
out
food.
with a young Southeast Asian woman and her mom and pop. Yeah, that can happen even during the first stages of dating. After
Good
all,
man.
the parents want to know you're a decent kind of guy.
That's
The
true.
parents treated him as is the norm because they were the elders. But this English dude, to be polite, kept finishing his plate. He'd grown up believing it was rude to leave anything, but the parents kept ordering more. That's because for them it was rude not to leave the table with lots of unfinished dishes on it. This showed they were not stingy, but in this case, the Englishman ended up feeling like he was gonna explode like
Yeah, I
Mr.
know, right?
Creosote from Monty Python's Meaning of Life. If only both parties had learned about each other's customs and taboos. But it gets worse than that. Another thing in Asia that you shouldn't do is when you're eating with chopsticks, you shouldn't stick them into the food. This not only looks a bit ugly, but those sticks will look like incense sticks. And that reminds people of how food is offered to the dead. As for how you dress in
I know they
Asia,
offer
you'd
food
think
to the
it'd be
dead.
common sense to know that in formal places you don't wear informal clothes. It's a sign of respect to dress correctly. Yes, it should be obvious, but you wouldn't believe how many people don't do it. For instance, most religious places in Asia, women shouldn't show their bare shoulders. Asia is starting to sound
You
rather
probably got
strict, but this
Europeans
next
and
taboo in a country in
Americans with
Europe
tank tops
sounds
on.
rather hardcore too. We're talking about Spain and the fact that when you're there, you shouldn't stretch or yawn in public. According to a
Really?
website giving advice on doing business in Spain, it is considered vulgar. Ouch. We guess exposing that meat stuck in your jagged teeth might not look great, but when
I'm
a
yawning
person's
now.
got a yawn, they got a yawn. Over in France, you'd think there'd be a lot of social taboos. After all, the French invented the term faux pas, meaning false step, usually relating to a social situation.
I know
French,
that,
like
what I
many
meant.
European cultures, tend not to ask personal questions when in conversation with someone they just met. You shouldn't ask about age, their job, money, or marriage. This might seem obvious to a lot of you, but again,
Can't
over
ask how
Asia,
old somebody
these kinds
is?
of questions will hit you from all sides. People there just want to get to know you, so they know your social status. But in France, those kind of questions are generally taboo. It's also taboo in France to flaunt your wealth in conversation. So unlike in some Asian nations where it's fine because it shows your social
Now here in
status,
America, all we
French
want to know
behavior
now
in
is like how
France are
much you
trying to
make.
look rich. Now let's talk about hand signals. As for the French, when someone makes the zero signal with their finger and thumb, it can mean worthless. For Americans, it can mean the opposite. It can tell you something
Okay.
that's just a-okay. So be careful when you do this sign because you might just be
Looking
telling them
like
that
a
what they've
one
done
with
for
the
you
thumbs
is
up
not
is like a
great, but absolutely terrible.
thing.
As for getting yourself in big trouble, give someone the V
One
sign
country.
in certain nations. It's thought this sign was an insult, with the palm facing inwards, originated in Britain. It means the same as when the Americans use the middle finger, but in Britain, as well as New Zealand, Ireland, India, and Australia, it's a pretty harsh insult and could get
So
you into
you
some
can't do
serious
that?
trouble in the wrong parts of town. The Brits like to say people started doing this back in the 16th century, or so, as a sign to their French enemy. The legend has it that the British soldiers had some great archers, so when the French caught them, they chopped off their middle finger so they couldn't pull back the string of the bow. Showing the French those fingers then became a sign of disrespect. There's no evidence that this is true, but it sounds cool.
Oh,
Most
that's the
people from
finger
other
you
nations
pull the bow
wouldn't
with.
give the sign
Okay.
anyway, but it is seen as cute in countries such as South Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
That could get someone in trouble, although it's highly unlikely any Brit would take offense at the K-pop fan wielding their two fingers while on vacation. They also usually do it with the palm turned outward, which is a sign of victory for the Brits. It's the same with the thumbs up gesture. In some countries, it tells someone the job has been done well, but it denotes an offense in
The
other
Middle East,
nations.
yeah.
In parts of the Middle East, sticking your thumb up like that can mean the same as giving someone the bird. That's why
I think-
when you're
I think it was
hitchhiking in
like-
a country such as Israel, you'd be a lot better holding
One of
out
the
your hand with
presidents
your
did that
thumb
somewhere. He got like booed.
do it
Can't
the
remember
other
what
way,
president
and
was.
someone might just get angry with you.
Either
We
Clinton or
haven't
first
talked about
Bush.
South America much, so now let's head in that direction. In Brazil, it's supposed to be okay to be a little bit late when you have an appointment with someone, at least when it's an informal occasion.
That
Like
would drive
many
me
countries in
crazy.
the world,
I
you don't
like to be
have
early.
arrive
I'm
somewhere
15
right
minutes
on the
prior.
dot. This can infuriate expats who've moved to a country where punctuality
If
isn't
you're on
taken
time, you're
very
late.
seriously. Apparently, most punctual countries in the world are Switzerland and Germany, while Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Brazil, Mexico, and China don't have so many demands on punctuality.
I keep on yawning.
Sticking with Brazil,
Late.
if you're heavily mocking in conversation, it might not go down too well. Tearing into people or being really sarcastic might just be a natural part of life in countries such as the US and the UK, but Brazilians, we are told, prefer a more lighthearted approach to chit-chat. As for tipping, that's done kind of religiously in the USA, but if you tip in Japan, you might be considered rude. It's like offering
Really?
charity to someone who thinks they don't need it. You also don't generally tip in most small restaurants or cafes in non-Western countries, especially if you're eating street food or paying for a haircut or a taxi. Then again, in some
Interesting.
countries where people don't generally tip, it might be different if they're staying at a plush hotel or eating at an expensive restaurant. For instance, in Cambodia or Vietnam,
Ho
there
Chi
isn't
Minh.
much of a tipping culture until posh restaurants catering to tourists and wealthy locals opened up. At the end of the day, people are generally tolerant of your taboo breaking wherever you go because they'll likely know you're a foreigner and might not
True.
understand the local customs. You should probably just make sure you know the rules concerning greeting, eating, and touching people. You also should hold back on being loud, kissing in public, and cursing, but that should be obvious. Now you need to watch weirdest sex customs around the world, or have a look at American behaviors considered
Where is
rude
sex
in other
customs?
countries.
I'll be the next one we hit up next time, you fellas. Man, so yeah, I personally, if I'm going somewhere of a different culture, I try to do some kind of research. So I kind of know what I'm going into. Like I said, I don't want to be disrespectful to the people. It's their culture, their home, and everything. So I generally try to not intentionally or try to learn about something before I go somewhere. So, but I can wait to travel again. So I'll make sure to keep this in mind when I try to go travel around the world and see some new places. If you learned something from this, let me know in the comments below. If you're from one of these foreign countries, let me know what's part of your customs that you think is be disrespectful somewhere, or something that Americans do that are disrespectful in your country. So next time, guys, I'll see you when I see you. Peace.